Hi BookTube, I'm here today with a book haul. This is in support of a cultural musical group a few towns over from me, and every year they hold this massive book sale. Now, I don't know if curling clubs are solely a Canadian phenomenon or not, but if you are Canadian, you probably know what I'm talking about when I talk about curling clubs. They're like these huge open spaces, and this one was chock full of books. And I got, I think it was 20 odd books here for $48. They're about $2 or $3 a piece. And yeah, I'm gonna stop babbling, and show you what I got. The first few books that I'm going to show you I got because of people on BookTube, so I'm going to have links and stuff in the description bar, and let me just talk about them. The first book is The Reality Dysfunction by Peter F. Hamilton. Now, it wasn't this book in particular, it was more the author whose name stood out to me because I had just watched a review from Final Blow Joe about the Commonwealth series, a duology by the same author, and he seemed to really enjoy them, so I decided to pick this beast up. This is about humans about 600 years in the future. We are living on other planets, and a guy kind of stumbles across this race of aliens that they thought were extinct, and that causes a lot of problems for humans. It has a lot to do with the nightmare that has prowled beside us since the beginning of history, which sounds pretty cool. Then I got this one, The Polished Hoe by Austin Clarke. Dee Dee and Steve from Brown Girl Reading and Steve Reads Books were just hosting a read-along for this, and so when I saw it I decided to pick it up because I generally like the books that they talk about. Now I don't know their opinions on it yet because I haven't watched the reviews yet, but I decided to pick this up anyways. This is the story of Mary Mathilda in Barbados, and she calls the police and admits to committing a crime, and it's kind of like the you spend 24 hours with her kind of learning about what is going on. Then I picked up The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbery. This has been going around quite a few people's channels, but I first saw it on Olivia Pope's channel, so I'll link her review of it down below. And this sounds really cool. I didn't know quite what it was about, but it's about a hotel in Paris, and we follow kind of three people. We follow the quite ugly and cantankerous Renee, who is the concierge, who's autodidactic and kind of superior to everyone in the building except for the fact that she's not as rich as them. And then Paloma, who I guess is featured on the cover here, is a 12-year-old who's incredibly smart and everything, and plans to commit suicide on her 13th birthday. And then I gotta look this up because Ozu is how you say it. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but that's how I'm gonna say it. Who's a new resident that comes in, and he kind of is able to see through the masks that they pit up. So that sounds quite intriguing. And then I decided to pick up Cold Comfort Farm by Stella Gibbons. This is about a young woman who's raised to just, go off and get married and such. She becomes orphaned at the age of 20 and goes to live with her family on Cold Comfort Farm. So that sounds pretty cool. Leslie over at Words of a Reader really liked this book, and I really enjoy some of the books that she enjoys as well, so decided to pick that up. And then I got Motherless Brooklyn by Jonathan Lethem, or Lethem, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that. And this is kind of like a take on detective novels. We follow a young orphan who has Tourette syndrome, as he kind of works for an illegal detective firm that actually works for the mafia. And I first saw this on the Book Chemist channel, and I'm not going to try and say his name. I think it's Mattia? I'm not sure. But I'll link his review of it down below. And he really says it's worth the read. The next three are all from one person's recommendation, a fellow Canadian booktuber, and that is Amy over at From the Dusty Bookshelf. And she is a huge fan of this author, Hugh McLennan. I always stumble over this. Hugh McLennan, and I'd never heard of him before I encountered her channel. And so when I saw some of these books, I had to pick them up. The first one is The Watch That Ends the Night, which is about two friends who fall in love with the same woman. And then I have The Precipice, and this is really cool. This is a first edition from 1948, so that's pretty cool. And this is about a young woman in a small Ontario town who wants to get out, and she ends up marrying a man from New York and moves there, and it takes place during World War II, and she's kind of unhappy, I guess, with her decision. And this book is Two Solitudes by Hugh McLennan as well, and this is the review that I'll post from Amy down below. And it's about a family, a French-Canadian family. Takes place from 1917 to 1939, and again, this is a first edition from 1945, which I think is really cool. I think that's it for books from BookTube, and these other ones are just kind of ones that interested me. I'm just going to show this one really quick. It's not a novel, it's the Rosetta Stone, which kind of explains the Rosetta Stone. It explains like the hieroglyphs, and there's pictures of it along with you know, words and such that were found on it, and then we get a side-by-side Greek and English translation of it, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, I think it's a really cool book to have if you're interested in language and interpretation and such, so I picked that up. Then I have Oh Dear Sylvia by Dawn French, and Dawn French is a comedian from the UK, and she does stuff with like Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie, Rowan Atkinson, that kind of group of comedians. They're all very like highly educated and intelligent and authors at the same time, and I read A Tiny Bit Marvelous by her, which was really good, and so I picked this one up, and it's about a woman in a coma who's kind of like a very selfish woman who's trying to hide the truth. And all these people come to visit her, and they're slowly trying to uncover the truth of her past. Then I got this one, Skippy Dies by Paul Murray, and I picked this up because of the review on the back, so I'm going to read that to you. The teenage boys at Dublin's prestigious Seabrook College aren't wizards, like some boarding school kids we know. They're just regular 14-year-olds, nerdy, snarky, lovelorn, and stumped by the mysteries of life, death, and history class. When Skippy, the quietest and most lovelorn of them all, draws his prematurely final breath in the novel's opening scene, the boys in Paul Murray's novel are pushed to crossroads of faith and reason. There's magic in the way Murray draws them through the crisis and over the threshold of adulthood. Skippy Dies is one of the liveliest and most poignant books of the year, and it will leave you eager for whatever Murray writes next. So that sounded really cool. I've only read a few books about boarding schools, and I've enjoyed them all, so why not add this one to it. This next one is kind of a fun book. Michael Crichton's Pirate Latitudes. I read Jurassic Park and incredibly enjoyed it. So I decided to pick this one up. And it's basically, it doesn't really say too much of what it's about on the back. The Caribbean, 1665, pirates. What more do you need to know? And this one I also picked up. I know I've seen someone on BookTube talk about this, and I tried to search and I couldn't remember who it was, but I must have lodged it somewhere in my unconscious, and when I saw this book I picked it up and, you know, decided to get it. This is The Universe vs. Alex Woods by Gavin Extence, and it's about a young boy who's kind of introverted and bookish and draws into himself as bullied, and then he meets this guy who says, you know, you gotta live life to the fullest, and our opening scene is him age 17. He's stopped at the Dover Customs with 113 grams of marijuana, an urn full of ashes on the passenger seat, an entire nation in uproar, and he's fairly sure he's done the right thing. So that sounds interesting to see what happened and what brought him to that point in his life. And then we have The White Tiger by Aravind Adiga. And what's interesting is that I had picked up another copy of this, and it was $3. So when I saw this one, I kind of picked it up again to check, and it was only $2, but this one's signed by the author, which I thought was really cool. It's $1 less, and it's a signed copy. Anyways, this is about Balram Halway, who's a servant, philosopher, entrepreneur, and murderer. I picked it up because it also says amoral, irreverent, deeply endearing, and utterly contemporary. This novel is an international sensation and a startling, provocative debut novel that won the Man Booker Prize in 2008. So that's pretty cool. Then I picked up this awesome book, The Origin of Species by Nino Ricci. I had previously read The Book of Saints by Nino Ricci and really enjoyed it. So when I saw this one, I just grabbed for it. And it's about a 30-something-year-old man in the 1980s who has a gnawing sense that he's a fraud in all aspects of his life. And he goes to the Galapagos Islands, which is where Darwin went, so I guess that's where we get the title, and something happens there, so that's quite cool. Then I got Animals People by Indra Sinha, and this sounds really cool. It seems to be about a feral child, and I'm fascinated with feral children. These are children that have been abandoned or neglected to the point where they are raised by animals and kind of take on animal characteristics. And I'm just going to read you this part. It takes place in India. But what's really cool is that it says here, this story was recorded in Hindi on a series of tapes by a 19-year-old boy in the Indian city of Kanpur. True to the agreement between the boy and the journalist who befriended him, the story is told entirely in the boy's words as he recorded on the tapes. Apart from translating to English, nothing has been changed. This part really got me. The recordings are of various lengths, and the tapes are presented in the order of numbering. Some tapes contain long sections in which there is no speech, only sounds such as bicycle bells, birds, snatches of music, and in one case several minutes of sustained and inexplicable laughter. A glossary has been provided, which is always helpful in books. So that sounded really cool to kind of get kind of like an oral story of this young man growing up in Indian slum. And then I got to this one, A Constellation of Vital Phenomena, by Anthony Mara. This takes place in Chechnya, and a young woman's father is taken away by the Russian soldiers and killed, and so her family friend takes her to this abandoned hospital where a doctor's still there, and she kind of takes them in. So that sounds quite interesting as well. I've never read a novel set in Chechnya. And again, we're in the Soviet Union here. This is Child 44 by Tom Rob Smith, and I had really originally heard of this as a movie, and I really wanted to watch it, but I never got around to doing it, which I'm kind of grateful for because now I get to read the book. This takes place in 1950 Soviet Union. A boy is found dead, and a police officer wants to investigate, but he's told not to cover it up and leave it alone. And because of his persisting eagerness in trying to investigate this case, he's put into exile, and there another child dies in a similar manner. So I guess we're hopefully going to find out what happens. I hope so. And then I got The Song of Kahushna by Anosh Irani. And this is an arc of it from 2005, I guess. But, yeah. Oh, I really like that there's handwriting in the back. I loved used books for that reason. That's really quite nice writing there, too. Anyways, this is the story of a young orphan named Chamdi, and he calls the city around him Kahushna, which means the city of no sadness. And he decides to run away from the orphanage and kind of becomes a street child and as he's looking for his long-lost father, which sounds quite interesting. You know, that juxtaposition between his thought of this place as a city of no sadness and then, you know, living as a street child at that time as well sounds, you know, interesting. And I got this one, The In-Between World of Vikram Lal by M.G. Okay, I'm horrible with these names, sorry. Vasanji, I'm gonna say, that's what's coming out. And this takes place in Kenya, actually. I picked it up because I thought it was Indian, and it kind of is, but it takes place in Kenya, about an Indian family there in the 1950s as the country's struggling towards independence. Yeah, and it talks about the change of Africa at that time, and why there were quite a few Indians in Kenya during that time as well. And the last book is quite nerdy of me. Reading Stargate SG-1. I am a huge fan of Stargate. I prefer Stargate Atlantis. It's my all-time favorite TV show. It trumps everything in my opinion. And this is a series of essays on the series. It includes some stuff from Stargate Atlantis as well. So yeah, it's I don't know, gender roles, sexual identities, and the concept of the other in Stargate SG-1. SG-1 and Atlantis, the gods of technology versus the wizards of justice. Way smarter than you are, Sam Carter, human being. I love Sam Carter. She's an awesome character. Stargate as can-called, ideological coding as a function of location. It's ZPM, Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis, and Canadian production of American television. So I'm fascinated with Stargate, and looking forward to reading some of the essays in here. I think that's it. I've probably talked for far too long. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you think of these books down below, and remember to check out those people that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Thank you.